Moses Lake native Mel Olson has a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star from his service in Korea. Most people didn't even know that about Mel until now. As Keith Oso tells us, a lot of people in Moses Lake remember him for one thing, being the voice of the Chiefs.
Mel Olson is Moses Lake High School sports.
That was a bad move. They're up over the top. I don't know.
If there's one single person in my mind that represents Moses Lake and what we're about, it's Mel Olson.
Dexter, state champion, 1969 and 70.
For 50 years, there's been one voice of the Moses Lake Chiefs.
Hands and knees down by a score of 4-1.
Mel Olson.
Listened to Mel an awful lot. Some of my earliest memories of Mel on the radio is probably back in 5th grade.
I think I've just always liked to be around young people, young kids and stuff. I relate more to youngsters than I do older people. That's for sure.
You know, it's not too bad, because if he'd have won that match, he'd have gone up against two-time champion Chandler Rogers in the
Through the years,
match.
Olson has come across so many names, sometimes it's tough to keep them separate, especially when it spans over several generations.
I have grandparents now that have kids playing, and I've had kids come up and I broadcast a game, the whole game with some football player, and then the dad tells me the next day, hey, I played a pretty good game, because I used his name all night, the dad's name instead of the kid's name, and I've had that happen 2 or 3 times.
Kids in Moses Lake grow up listening to Mel.
On the bubble.
Then one day, they play in front of him.
Oh, it was a thrill. He could make a boring game exciting. You kind of always listened to hope that someone recorded the game so you could hustle home and listen to see how you did.
The most unique thing about Mel doing games for so long is the fact that he does wrestling, something few have attempted and even fewer have excelled.
That piece where we broadcast wrestling, I think it's unique to Moses Lake. I have no idea where else they might do it.
The manager says, let's do wrestling. And I says, we can't do wrestling. And I still don't think we can do it.
The we Mel refers to is his wife, Vicki, who is by Mel's side every step of the way.
Being I married a person that's in physical education, I knew I was going to be in a lot of sports. And I warned all the other women about it, too.
In the early years when our daughters were young, Vicki would stay home and she would listen. That was worse. It was better to have her with me. Then she didn't critique me. But she'd let me know every dumb thing that I said.
He likes to always have his assistant Vicki there, so we always kind of get a little kick out of that.
What were you trying to say, Vicki?
I don't talk very much. Well, he's broadcasting, because about the time I'm going to say something, his key may be open, and I don't want everybody to hear what I have to say.
They have on occasion.
Somehow these two have traveled the state covering Moses Lake sports together, and they're still happily married going on 64 years. The secret of which they found when they first started dating during a canoe trip.
Went to sit down and he says, well, you're not sitting right. And I said, oh, okay. So he showed me how to do that. Then we started to paddle. He says, you're not paddling right. So he started to show me how to paddle. And finally he said, are you sure you've never been in a canoe? And I was getting pretty irritable by then. And I said, why don't you just paddle your end and I'll paddle mine? And that's what we've been doing for 64 years.
After 50 years, it might be time to walk away. That's something they're trying to figure out. And when they finally do sign off for the last time, games in Moses Lake will never be the same.
Oh, well, we've talked about it, but we haven't come to any conclusions yet. This depends. We go day by day, and if we feel good, we just keep doing it.
I think I compared it a lot to Dave Niehaus with the Mariners. It's a void. Maybe a job that I wouldn't want to take, because you're always going to be compared to Mel, the voice. We'll miss it.
The rest of this regional tournament, it won't be too long, so don't go too far away from your radio.
To do that for 50 years shows the man's passion and love for his community, his school, and the kids. He has been around for a long, long time.
Oh, he's definitely left behind a legacy.
Yeah, great story by Keith Oso.
Absolutely. Great job, Keith. Thank you too, Dennis. Yeah. Fabulous.